Hello everyone, Steve here. Today I'm going to touch on a quite sensitive subject and speak a little bit about the loneliness people face after 50. I'm also going to try to give you three reasons or three ways you can really overcome it. You know what's strange about loneliness? It doesn't show up the way you expect it to. It's not like one day you wake up and suddenly feel completely alone. It's much quieter than that. It's more like something that slowly creeps into your life without asking for permission, and before you realize it, it's just there. You can be sitting in a room with people, even people you've known for years, and still feel disconnected. Not because anything is wrong on the surface, but because something underneath has shifted. And I've noticed this happens a lot after 50. Not because people lose suddenly relationships, but because the structure of their life changes in ways that they didn't anticipate. And if you don't understand what's happening, you start thinking something is wrong with you. Well, it's not. What actually changes after 50? Let's break this down properly because this is where most people misread the situation. Up until your 40s, your life is built around momentum. You're working, building, raising a family, solving problems, constantly moving. There's always something that's pulling you forward. And whether you realize it or not, that movement creates connection. You're interacting with people every single day. You have a reason to reach out, a reason to talk, a reason to engage. Then something shifts. Your career either stabilizes, slows down, or in some cases gets disrupted completely. Take for example the layoffs that have been happening in the last few years all around us. Your kids don't need you the same way they used to. Your social circle starts getting smaller because people move, retire, or simply drift. And suddenly, you go from a life that was full of by default to one where connection has to be intentional. That's the shift no one prepares you for. And if you don't adjust, loneliness starts to build in the background. So let me give you the first reason. You lost the system that created connection. This happens, and it's probably the most important one. You didn't lose people, you lost that system that kept you connected to them. Think about it. Work used to give you daily interaction, meetings, conversations, shared problems, even casual chats in between tasks. Family life gave you structure, school runs, activities, routines. All of that created what I call a forced proximity. You didn't have to try. Connection was built into your day. After 50, that system starts to disappear. And most people don't replace it. So what happens? You start waiting for connection instead of creating it. You assume people will reach out. You assume things will just happen naturally. They don't. And slowly your world becomes quieter. Another reason is your identity starts to shift. This reason is more subtle, but it hits harder. A lot of your identity has been tied to what you do, your role, for example, your job, your responsibilities. And when those begin to change, even slightly, it creates this strange internal gap. You're no longer as needed in the same way. You're no longer as visible. You're no longer in the middle of everything. And without realizing it, you start pulling back. You speak less, you engage less, you assume you're less relevant. And that assumption becomes a self fulfilling loop because the less you show up, the less people engage with you. And the loneliness deepens. Reason number three, you stop investing in your relationships. Now, here's that reason. And this is where I'm going to challenge you a bit. Most people after 50 stop building new relationships. They rely almost entirely on existing ones. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable. You've built a life, you build connections. Why start again? But here's the problem. Relationships are not static. They evolve and sometimes they fade. If you're not actively creating new ones, your network naturally shrinks. And over time, that leaves gaps. What's worse is that many people hesitate to reach out because they feel like they're interrupting, or they think it's too late to start something new. It's not, but that hesitation keeps them stuck. So, what you can do about it? I'm going to give you 3 practical actions. So, let's move away from the problem and talk about what actually works, okay? Because this is fixable, but only, I repeat, only if you take deliberate action. So the first action is rebuild a system for connection. You need to stop relying on random interaction and start creating structure again. That means putting connections back into your calendar the same way work used to be, not occasionally, consistently. For example, instead of saying, I should catch up with people, you decide that every week you reach out to 1 or 2 people. No overthinking, no waiting for the perfect moment. You create recurring touch points, coffee, walks, calls. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it is consistent. Because connection is not about intensity, it's about frequency. And right now, most people are missing that completely. Action number 2, try and redefine your role in conversations. This one is internal, but it changes everything. You need to stop seeing yourself as someone who's stepping back and start seeing yourself as someone who adds value in a different way. You have experience, my friend. You have perspective. You have stories. You have insight. Use it. But if you don't bring that into conversations, people won't know it's there. So instead of waiting to be asked, you engage, you contribute, you share. Not in a forced way, of course, but in a natural way that reminds people that you are still very much in the game. Because relevance is not something you keep, it's something you demonstrate. Action number 3, start one new connection channel. This is the one most people try to avoid, but it's the highest leverage. You need to create at least one environment where new relationships can come from. That could be a community, a class, a group activity, even something as simple as consistently showing up in the same place. The key is repetition. You don't build relationships from one interaction. You build them from repeated exposure. So instead of trying to meet people, you place yourself in environments where connection happens naturally over time. And then you show up consistently. That's how networks rebuild. Let me leave you with this. This is not permanent. If you're feeling this right now, it doesn't mean your life is shrinking. It means the structure that used to support your life has changed. And if you don't replace it, yes, loneliness will grow. But if you do, if you rebuild connection intentionally, if you step back into conversations, if you create new environments, then this phase becomes something else completely. It becomes a reset, a chance to build a life that is not just full, but meaningful in a different way. And that part is still completely in your control. If this resonated with you, I'd like you to think about one thing. Who's one person you can reach out to this week? Not next month, not sometime soon, this week. Start there. I hope to see you at the next one. Thanks for watching.